Hello, welcome back. On this video, we're gonna talk about props. Props in Python significantly impact the behavior and appearance of our components. To make it more clear, let's get back to the Visual Studio Code. Here in my code, I have already cleaned up our material from the last video so that we can write it more clearly. On the right side, I already started the project too. Reflex has properties that are shared between all components, which means a component can have these properties with the same name. However, some props have unique names or function specific to their components, meaning each component has its own props. For example, let's take rx.image. The image component has its own props, such as source. The source props works like an HTML attribute, where we specify the paths to the image, right? And there's also the alt prop, which is an alternative text that will be displayed whenever the image doesn't appear, doesn't load, or encounters an error in some way. Let's say we use a placeholder from placeholder.go and we use 600 times 400 as the image source and save it, then open browser and type localhost port 3000. The image should be displayed. Okay, this is our image, but there's also something like Rx, Rx link. A link has its own props, just like an image. For example, it has href, which stands for hypertext reference, where we specify the destination of the link, right? Let's set the link href to google.com and save the change. See, this is our link and it has its own props. And there are common props that all components in the Reflex have. Every component has them. For example, in HTML, we can assign attributes like ID or class. Similarly, let's create another component, let's say RxBox. We can give it an ID or class, just like in HTML. But in Python, since it follows the snake case convention, we use class name instead of class. For example, we can set ID to box1 and define class name. There are two ways to assign classes in Reflex, using a list or using a strings. Since Reflex uses Tailwind CSS, we can apply utility classes directly. Let's give it some text first, like hello world, and apply some styling. For example, type text Excel border gray 400 and text red. Now save the change, go back to the browser and wait. There you go. Wait, the text is not red because we didn't specify the shade. Let's type 500 and save. And voila, now hello world appears with the common props applied. These common props like ID and class name can be used in any Reflex component, right? And beside using class name, we can also apply CSS properties directly as props in our component. And don't forget to use snake case convention. If you have more complicated styling, let's first delete the border class from class name. Then we can use border 1px solid and also apply like maybe box shadow for additional styling. As you can see, we can directly use CSS attributes as properties like border and box shadow. Let's save it back to the browser. Wait, as you can see, there is a border and there is also a shadow underneath. And the value of these properties can be bound to the state, just like we did in our last video. So this value can be dynamic based on the variable set in the state, allowing it to change anytime. Let's create another component, something like Rx button. Let's create a variable inside state, like text button, to store the button text dynamically. And we assign text button as the button text. Then we can also bind properties, maybe like color sim, and assign it to state class. But before that, we create a variable called color sim and set it to red. But maybe not color sim, just color is okay. And when on click, the color sim should be changed to the blue, right? We create a event trigger called change color, and on the state we define the event trigger called change color, and change the color to blue. So basically the color sim value will be red at first, and when we click the button the color should change to blue. And then we save our change and back to the browser. Now our button is ready. The initial value is red, and when we click it changed to blue. With this we can do so much more with our component. And all of this is a bound prop, meaning you can dynamically change any prop in your state. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.